Hello everyone, and welcome to Yoshi 1 Kenobi's Lithoforming Mill deck for Zendikar Rising Standard. So what do we do with this deck? Well, the goal is to make use of Nahiri's Lithoforming to mill our opponent to oblivion. What does that card do? Well, you pay X mana plus 2 red, sacrifice X lands, and for each land you sacrifice this way you draw a card. And then you may play X additional lands this turn, but they enter on the battlefield tap. So how does that fit into a mill plan? Well, the two main mill cards that we have access to are Ruin Crab, which mills our opponent 3 cards whenever a land enters the battlefield. And Nahiri's Lithoforming allows us to play more lands during a turn. Then there's Teferi's Tutelage, which mills our opponent whenever we get to draw cards. So with Nahiri's Lithoforming, we also get to draw cards. We get to draw cards, we get to play lands, and we get to mill our opponent with Teferi's Tutelage and Wound Crab. So that's the core of the deck. The rest is just built to protect our strategy, remove our opponent's creature, and essentially stay alive long enough for our mill plan to take effect. We're playing Scorching Dragonfire as removal. We're also playing Bonecrusher Giant. It's removal, it's a good body to defend. We're playing some of the lands that are also spells, so Shatterskull Smashing as removal. Then there's the cute ones, so Glasspool Mimic can be used to copy Ruin Crab, which will allow us to mill our opponent more. Or we can play it as a land to mill with Ruin Crab, so there's some good synergies there. There's Valakut Awakening, which allows us to draw cards equal to the number of cards in our hand, plus 1 if we send it all back to the bottom, which synergizes with Teferi's Tutelage for more milling action. We're playing Didn't Say Please, as it's a counterspell that mills our opponent. We're playing a pair of Ashiok's Erasures as more options to counter opponent's stuff, Storm's Rat as more removal, then Solemn Simulacrum, because it's a body that's going to help us make it to the late game, also plays a land and draws a card, which goes with both of our mill strategies. Then we're playing a pair of Into the Stories, because drawing 4 with Teferi's Tutelage is just a lot of mill. Also, since we're already milling our opponent, this allows us to draw cards in order to support the rest of our strategy. And Seagate Restoration, another land that can be used to draw cards. And so we're playing a fairly standard lands lineup, which includes 4 Fabled Passages for double Ruin Crab milling. And that is it for Lithoforming Mill in Zendikar Rising Standard. Now let's see this deck in action. We are playing Lithoforming Mill in Zendikar Rising Standard against Olez. This hand is all wrong. Let's keep it. We have stuff to play. Have removal. We might even be able to abuse the Simulacrums this game. Let's ensure that we get there. Glasspool Shores and Seagate Reborn against Mono Red? No, it's unlikely. Red Black? Big Red? I want to see Big Red. I really don't care that much about the Magmatic Chandler. Crab. I like the crab. But this turn is not the turn. We're gonna Solemn Simulacrum, getting blue. Yes, I think our opponent is playing Rakdos, and they're starved on black. Which means we probably don't want to mill our opponent quite yet. Want to keep them starved. Scorching Dragonfire. Oh, that's not nice. think I mostly want to set up for Nahiri's Lithoforming at this point. Let's play this tapped. Pass the turn. I'll keep Thassa's Intervention and Ashiok's Erasure opened. See what our opponent's playing. Yeah, opponent's playing big red. Or red-blue spells. Because our opponent also has the option of tapping the Magmatic Chandler if they want better cards in their hand. Tectonic Giant, that is fine. I'll take the opportunity to draw. Nahiri's Lithoforming and Teferi's Tutelage. Mostly what we were looking for. What's Wrath? Storm's Wrath, that is. And then go Crab. Pass the turn. Opponent's probably not playing board wipes. So they'll have to deal with the crabs individually. Shatterskull Smashing is not big enough yet. Alright, well. We get to Teferi's Tutelage to open this party up. Glasspool Mimic. Glasspool Mimic's pretty cool. So let's drop the Ashiok's Erasure. Mill you for 2. Glasspool Mimic. More crabs. More crabs. Then pass the turn back. I just need a few more lands. And our opponent to stop killing our crabs. Oh, another Teferi's Tutelage. Let's go into the story first. Red, blue, blue. Draw 4. Mill you. You get a Phoenix. Island. And Tutelage number 2. Draw 1, discard the Simulacrum. Mill you for 4. And we're there. We have it. We have Nahiri's Lithoforming with a crab and a pair of Tutelages on the battlefield. As long as our opponent doesn't kill us or the Ruined Crab. Because Fiery Emancipation. Oh, it's Iron Crag Feet. That's cool tech. Opponent's trying to burn OTK. There's a Magmatic Chandler with 11 instants and sorceries in graveyard, so that will remain a 4/4 for the duration of the game. Until our opponent loses. Milled out by the power of Nahiri's Lithoforming. And that's just how awesome things are. Fabled Passage, mill you. Fabled Passage activates. Mill you more. And now the coup de grace. Nahiri's Lithoforming, X equals 6. Draw 6 cards. Draw 6 cards, play 6 lands, and mill our opponent to oblivion. I just wish your opponent would have let it resolve, but it's all the same. It's Nahiri swirling flames at our opponent's face and crushing them under a tremendous amount of mill. We are playing Lithoforming Mill in Zendikar Rising Standard against Koga. Insert Pokemon music, as we're fighting the gym leader of poison types, using Lyris of the Dream Den. Alright, I have a decent hand. Have Bonecrusher Giant, Solemn Simulacrum, and an Ashiok's Erasure. Against the Demir Rogue's control list, apparently. Let's open up with the Temple. Rune Crab's pretty good. Let's run the crab. And let's go for the island. Mill you for 3. Who's the millman now? Yeah, Wind Robber, Lofty Denial. You can probably run out the Glasspool Mimic as a copy of the Ruin Crab. Or not. Another Ruin Crab bites dust. If that's the case, then let's go with the plan B. Hardcasted Bonecrusher Giant. 4 damage a turn will get things done. Hopefully. Because we don't have much aggro in this deck. Sorry, Tot Thief mills us. Alright, opponent sends a card to the bottom. Go play the Pathway. I'll attack with the Bonecrusher Giant. Now, do we want to keep counter magic up? Probably. I think so. Opponent tries to flash into something, well, Ashiok Erasures it. Opponent decides not to use their mana. Or Nahiri's Lithoforming. Ah, actually it's just one. 1 Tutelage. That's alright. We are planning on winning on the Bonecrusher Giant plan, right? Opponent brings in Lyris. Alright. If that's how you want to play it, then that's how we're gonna play. Let's play Glasspool Mimic as a land. Yes, you may mill us. Opponent's gonna cast Lyris, then hold back counterspell maybe? Or no. Opponent's going to let us attack yet again with Bonecrusher Giant. I'm good with that. Well, you gotta do something eventually, opponent. I ideally want a Bonecrusher that Lyris. Drawn and lock trigger. You didn't say please. Oh, and the opponent didn't have a backup counterspell. That's good. What's down to 6? Lurus. Lurus will resolve. I'll kill off Lurus because it's troublesome. You may have your second rogue. Opponent keeps on milling us 2 cards at a time, which isn't really a problem. Have yet another counterspell. Well, force the Wind Robber to blow up. We'll pass the turn. Frantic inventory, sure, you can draw a card. Basically, we want to keep the counter magic up to keep the Bonecrusher Giant alive. If the opponent doesn't play anything, then we'll into the story. Heartless Act. This I want to Ashiok's Erasure. Drawn and block the Ashiok's Erasure. Alright. Well, you'll take 2 off of the Bonecrusher Giant trigger anyways. Which means that our next game plan is to play the Bonecrusher Giant with counter magic up. So I'll play the Simulacrum next turn. Let's crack this Fabled Passage. One should be fairly low on counter spells. So let's try out our Bonecrusher Giant. Ooh, opponent cycling. That's very good for us. I think that list plays a lot of counter spells though. We might get a potentially lethal Solemn Simulacrum if our opponent targets a Bonecrusher Giant, counters our Didn't Say Please. Opponent's on 8 lands, around 6. But opponent's on big clock here. Agadeem's Awakening. No, I don't think so. Negate? Drown? Nope. Mill you for 3. No Awakening for you. No, we still have a counterspell. So if we play the Simulacrum, search for basic land, put it on the battlefield, tap. Nope, we don't want to do that. We want to swing. Force the awkward block. That's what we're looking for. And pass the turn. Let's counter the inventory. I don't want you to draw 2. Well, Clink to Dust. You can draw a card or gain a life off of it. Into the Story is scary. I guess it's an Into the Scary. Maybe I should have let the inventory resolve. So opponent has a blocker yet again. We have a lot of potential removal for that blocker. How many cards? 25. How many Scorching Dragonfires do we have left? We have 2 Scorching Dragonfires and 2 Bonecrusher Giants. Let's go for it. Into the story. Yeah, opponent wants to cling to dust. I'm starting to regret that into the story now. Opponent exiles a Ruined Crab, which will gain 3 life. We draw 4. And we did draw the Dragonfire. We also have a Ruined Crab. Well, first things first. I'll hit you with the Bonecrusher Giant. You'll sack the Wind Robber, draw a card. Then we'll play the Ruined Crab. And we'll mill you for 3. And it's your turn again. So now 20 cards in their deck, we're at 28. So we have 2 threats that are attacking your opponent from completely different angles. Alright, take 2 from the Bonecrusher. How are you going to deal with the crabs though? Well, that's not a way to deal with the crab. What are the odds that our opponent has a removal spell? Huh. Tutelage into Valakut Awakening seems pretty good. Don't want the opponent to counter Tutelage. Well, let's go for it anyways. We draw 1. Nothing's instant. That's really good. Don't need the Storm's Wrath. Mill you for 2. So Valakut's Awakening would be draw 5, which would mill 10. Let's go with this Simulacrum. It's going to increase our land count and mill our opponent for 3. Temple, mill you for 3 more. Opponent's down to 9 cards. Shatterskull. It's pretty good. It's a land that we can use to mill our opponent, and it can also act as removal. Kind of best of both worlds right now. Soaring Tot Thief. Unless our opponent goes Soaring Tot Thief, Soaring Tot Thief, Soaring Tot Thief, we should still be fine. We have you attacked from a couple of different angles now. Simulacrum's threatening severe damage. The Tutelage and the Ruined Crab are threatening your library. How do you get out of this, rogues? That's one way to get out of it. Try to mill me. Now these are some very big 1-drops. 6/2 Death Touch Flash? Sign me up. Heartless, act on that crab. Alright, we get milled for 6. And we end the game with Valakut's Awakening for X equals 3. And that's how you mill rogues. By pressuring them with a Bonecrusher Giant and using Teferi's Tutelage. And rogues just got milled. We are playing Lithoforming Mill in Zendikar Rising Standard against Spooky 402, just in time for Halloween. Although it's a little early, but it's gonna be just in time for Halloween. Alright, we have actually 4 lands in this hand, so we will keep this. We are playing against red deck wins. Alright, well let's open up with the Seagate Restoration tapped, because it's a pretty land. And I don't think we're going to be casting it so soon. Pass the turn back to your opponent. We will eat 2 damage from the Hellhound. Then I'll Dragonfire the Intimidator. Pass the turn back. Then we'll play an island and hold back didn't say please. And we will say please don't play an Anax or something like that this turn. Hold back a Bonecrusher. Excellent. Alright. Now I get to hold back counter magic. And end the cycle of terror. Bonecrusher our face? Probably. We'll let that resolve. We need to ensure we counter mana efficiently. We take 2 from the Hellhound, and now we counter. Mill you for 3. Alright. Split Fabled Passage here. So our only real move is to Ashiok Erasure. A Fervent Champion. Probably want to let that resolve. Opponent is just baiting us. Yeah, I'll take 1. Opponent probably has a Phoenix or something like that. Well, let's keep on playing lands. Eventually we'll draw something to mill our opponent. We do have Nahiri's Lithoforming in hand, which is a key card. We just need more key cards. Maybe we need a card key. Opponent shocks us. We're starting to get pretty low. I mean, lands are gonna kill us pretty soon. Opponent's gonna cast Lambert. This we will counter. Say no to the cleave. Alright, we have Crab. You can also Shatterskull Smashing for X equals 2. Shatterskull Smashing. Blow up your field. Play Crab of Doom. Play land. Mill you for 3 and pass the turn back. And we have a Glasspool Mimic that we can use to mimic the crab. We also have a Lithoforming, which we should be able to use to end the game. Alright. Glasspool Mimic. We have 2 Ruined Crabs. Fabled Passage, milieu for 6. Past the turn. We're so close. We have it. We just need the opponent not to kill us. Can we mill 33? If we lose the crab. I don't think so. You don't have a burn spell. Down to 3. Are we dead? We're dead, aren't we? We're dead. Well, let's mill you for 6 anyways. You would have had it. Yeah, we can't play 10 lands in the turn. We got close, but our opponent had the burn spell. We are playing Lithoforming Mill with Zendikar Rising Standard against Mega Hearts. It's like megahertz, but with hearts. Opponent goes first. We have our Nahiri's Lithoforming. We also have lands of all the colors we need. And we have a Crab of Doom. Crab of Ruins, Crab of Doom. Same thing. Let's go turn 1 Crab against Sultai. Sultai without Uro seems a lot less frightening. Seems like we can afford to play this tap. Let's see what you're playing. Mythical Dispute, Hagra's Molding. Sultai control. Let's get more info. Kill spells. Alright. Let's pass the turn back. That'll resolve. It's a cantrip. No need to counter that. Now into the stories. Readily available. Opponent passes the turn. Let's use Stomp. It's unlikely that we'll need to stomp a creature from their deck. Alright. Now we kinda need to do something. Ideally, something that would draw land. I don't want. I think I'm just gonna pass. I really don't like tapping out for Teferi's Tutelage. I kinda regret playing that Stomp now. Yes, we will take the damage. And we will draw a card. Nothing like a 3-mana cantrip. That's gonna get countered. That's okay. Teferi's Tutelage. Draw 1, discard 1. I don't really need the Lithoforming right now. It's a powerful card when we have a lot of lands, but we don't have a lot of lands. Let's play it as a red source. Milieu for 3. Man, that's a lot of counter magic. Opponent's playing Shark Typhoons and counter magic. And kill spells. Alright. Four mana, exile target crab. I'm also fine with that. Opponent is mostly tapped out. So I kind of want to cast this. Let's try it. Negate. Alright. Now we're in business. Well, first of all, we'll mill you for a ton and a half. Or 8. If you want to be precise. And most importantly, we have access to lands now. Thassa's intervention I like. Actually, we can probably kill our opponent with Seagate Restoration now. The land that's also a kill spell. We just didn't know about it. And our opponent is really fed for that Cling to Dust. That's okay. Opponent has no pressure. We have some counter magic. Actually, we have a pair of Didn't Say Please. Three, 6. And we have the mana to Seagate Restoration next turn. So if we can bait our opponent to tapping out, we can win the game on next turn. That's sorcery, right? Yeah. Let's stomp the shark. Stomp the shark, do 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 do. Alright, and now you have 0 pressure. I don't really want to into the story just yet. I want to into the story with counter magic up. Play this. That's the turn. So the idea is we, at the end step of our opponent, we into the story, the opponent counter spells. We didn't say please a counter spell. They counter our counter spell. Then we untap, we Seagate Restoration, and our opponent scoops, seeing that they get milled out from our land. Opponent exiles their own card to draw one. Opponent cycles. Actually, we can mill them for 10. Not worth it. Not quite yet. I'd rather use the Into the Story as a bait. Mostly because winning with Seagate Restoration seems like a lot of fun. Alright. Into the Story. Neutralized. Counter your counter spell. You counter my counter to your counter. And that's blue for you. Now the question is, do you have Mythical Dispute? Did use a lot of cards for this. Valakut Awakening will draw us 5. Which is almost good enough. Valakut. 1, 2, 3, 4. Didn't see please. Seagate Restoration. Doesn't really matter. We shouldn't have to dig that deep. And opponent scoops it up. Teferi's Tutelage with our lands is good enough to win the game against the Mirror Control. Sultai Control. We are playing Lithoforming Mill in Zendikar Rising Standard against JMS the Y. You have a pretty good hand. Crab, didn't say please. It's very important to maintain your manners when you're playing with a crab. Feebled Passage is double mill. Yeah, let's keep the Fabled Passage. Although we do have enough lands. It's just hard to pass the passage. Oh no! Oh no. We're playing against cycling. Well, the deck's gonna help to help us mill them. That's the upside. Downside is once we've got them mostly milled, they can one-shot us. So that didn't see please is going to be quite important. We counter them solar flares. Shatterskull Smashing is also going to be fairly important. Let's keep on going with the mill plan. Also, our opponent's not playing Lyris, which is unusual. Probably just a mistake. Opponent's playing Millburn. Just trying to accumulate enough burn spells to kill us. Flourishing Fox is a big pain. Let's go fetch a blue source. I think we're gonna need to use our Storm's Wrath here. Yeah, opponent's playing Imposing Vantasaur. That's why there's no Lyris. It's not a good reason, but it is the reason. Alright. Well, that fox is gonna kill us if we don't get rid of it. So we're gonna get rid of it. Just unsure how many cards with cycling our opponent has. He might actually have 14 to kill us. Probably, actually. There's no solar flare in the graveyard. Oh boy. Alright. That'll do it. We are playing Lithoforming Mill on Zendikar Rising Standard against Ivan Alejandro. 3 lands, Tutelage, Crab, going first. Oh, of course we're keeping this. Opponents on the mulligan. Playing Royal Scions. Let's play the Crab. Opponent plays a Hellhound. That is quite fine. Let the mill begin. And pass the charge. Let's kill the Hellhound. Robber. No attacks from the robber. Alright, what do we do here? Kinda wanna have a blue source. I think we played a Shatterskull. And we pay the opponent and played Bonecrusher. No attacks. Kargan Intimidator, Fervent Champion. Opponent's got some stuff. We might have the Storm's Wrath, which makes me sad a little bit. We could Glasspool Mimic, copy our Ruin Crab. We can block the Robber and Fervent Champion for a little while. I think we'll need the Storm's Wrath though. So let's go with Tutelage. Let's discard the temple. Fabled Passage. Mill you with the crab. Pass the turn. I'll leave the Fabled Passage up for a little while just in case we Glasspool Mimic our crab. Believe in the cleave, the Intimidator, most likely. Well, of course you do. We take a bit of a beating. Do I want to draw another land? Not really. So I'll crack this. Fetch an island, mill you for 3. Draw a mill. Attack with the crab, very important. Storm's Wrath. And pass the turn back. Bonecrusher Giant. Mill you. So I'll take 10 from Bonecrusher Giant. Well, let's go crab. Crab land. Mill you for 6. And I hope we draw in Nahiri's Lithoforming. I think that's about our play. Because we'll take 10 off of that. Which brings us to barely alive territory. Ah, opponent had a shock. Well, you put up a good fight against Red Deck wins. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe by clicking the Yoshi icon at the right of your screen. It doesn't cost you any mana, and it greatly helps to support this channel and keep the awesome videos coming.